Hello, everyone. Happy Monday and welcome. Yesterday, we officially launched a Healthier You Blue Zones Challenge, and we focused on the power of purpose. So, I wanted to briefly run you through what it was that was covered, and hopefully, you have out a pen and paper or interact with the Facebook group and give feedback on how the power of purpose shapes and helps you live a longer, healthier lifestyle. Let's get started. So, the first activity that we started with yesterday was I wanted them to consider what their closest friend would consider their best character trait is. I'm going to push you guys just a little bit further and have you think about what would your parents say your best character trait is? And what about your boss? And look at those three character traits. And then go ahead and brainstorm on what you would say your best character trait is. In yesterday's meetup, we brainstormed our closest friends' character trait that they would say about us, and we made that our last name. I yesterday went by Brooke Innovative. We also covered expectations. I think expectations are very important in any kind of situation that you don't really have a full understanding of what it is to expect and what it is that you need to be giving back. So, we talked about that sharing observations from the book are asked to be referenced with a page number whenever possible. And that just makes it so that all of us can be following along and really looking at the text and being interactive. There is a book club component to all of this, and I think that that would definitely be useful as we go through talking about what Dan has to say about the Blue Zones Challenge. Also, relating the book to personal life or real life experiences. This is going to be a very personal journey for each of you, and being comfortable and able to relate it back to your personal life and experiences really helps for this program to help pave the way to where it is that your overall objective is at the end of this Blue Zones Challenge. As often as possible, add to the conversation with your ideas, questions, and comments, concerns. Whatever comes to mind, I do hope that there is some platform, whether it's in your notebook with your pen or the Facebook group or in one of the meetups, to really allow yourself to share those ideas, those questions, those comments, those concerns, those things that you really just want to get out into the world, and understand that there's possibly other people that are thinking and feeling those same things and are just waiting for the other person to say it. It always seems to be the way it is. Show respect and consideration to all participants at all times by listening when someone is speaking, and respond with questions or connections. Respect is huge. And by having respect, we are going to create that opportunity for people to be comfortable, to really open up, and to really bring their personal struggles or their personal achievements, and really feel like we can, again, going into the last bullet point, build each other up and build on those ideas to really help this wonderful challenge that we are all experiencing. I call it life. We also briefly discussed what are the 5 blue zones. So the 5 blue zones, again, are the original 5 countries that researchers had found that people live the longest, and they're healthy. They have lower rates of chronic disease, and they're living longer. And there's just a huge wonder of what is going on in all 5 of these different countries that are in very far parts of the world. That what are they doing? What is leading to them living longer, having less chronic disease, and happier and more more fulfilled? I also had asked the participants, has anyone ever visited any of the 5 blue zones? And I invite you, if you have, we would love to hear your feedback and what it is that you've seen and what the culture was like. And if you can relate to anything that you read about throughout the Blue Zones Challenge that you did see while visiting. The Power 9. So the power nine are those nine elements that all nine meetups are based upon. And they were discovered by a team of researchers and anthropologists, demographers, and epidemiologists that spent much of their time researching and doing evidence-based to determine these different factors that go into these individuals living in these different countries and why it is that they are living longer, healthier lives. This is our agenda. I have held off on posting that onto the Facebook group and it will be posted this evening. I wanted the opportunity to point out that our agenda looks very different than how Dan laid out those nine elements in his book. So again, we are not following the order of the book, which is perfectly fine. We decided to go a little bit different simply because we needed to keep in mind that these are going to be topics that need to be discussed whether virtually or in person, and the activities and the objectives that go into those meetups and what would fit best of being virtual and in person. There will be additional resources, documents, and ideas that will be posted to the Facebook group throughout the week. I'm committing to posting on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, but I am a individual of loving Facebook and am on periodically in between those days. So if there's ever any questions or comments, I will be sure to get to them. And each virtual meetup will be recorded. So yesterday's meetup, we did do some recording, although we did have technical difficulties, and hence why I am here going through the PowerPoint and speaking over just to let you know what we did, because we did have some hiccups that we are trying to iron out before the next virtual meetup. So shifting into purpose. People who know their life's purpose and why they wake up in the morning live longer, better lives. Yes, we've read this, we know that, but I'm curious to know, why do you think that's so? What is it that goes into knowing yourself in that kind of way and knowing the things that you put out into the world makes such a big difference on living longer and happier and having less chronic disease? It would be interesting to reflect upon and to really think about as a individual what it is and why that is just so relevant. So we know that the Okinawans and the Costa Ricans, they even have a word in culture and a practice that they do that's very focused on knowing what their purpose is, the reason for being is, the drive that really goes into their culture, knowing the importance of what it is that you bring into the world. So another activity with your pen and paper, it could definitely be awesome to look at the list of synonyms that you could come up with of what you resonate with as purpose. Yesterday, we had a couple different participants that came up with a great list. We had everything from a plan, goal, determination, light, a reason, a point, motivation. I'd be curious to know what your synonyms for purpose are. Feel free to post them on the Facebook group. Moving on, on the right-hand side of the screen, I read these different statements aloud to those that were listening, and I asked them as they listen, I want them to keep in mind and jot down fairly quickly, because I read these statements quite quickly. Do any of these statements relate to your own life? And what thoughts, feelings, and ideas come to mind when you hear these different statements? I know that the first statement always really stood out to me of not everyone feels the need for a written purpose, but we all need to be needed. Mattering matters. So that related to me of like, oh my goodness, I don't have a written purpose. Like, that's why I'm going through this book and, doing this journey with the Blue Zones challenge of like, okay, so what does it look like on pen and paper? And then realizing that there is something that's a link to being needed, and the things that I do that matter, like go into like the being needed part, and then like what I'm giving back part. And then that's really just kind of really linking it all together. I would be curious to know what statement resonates the most with you, whether it's a statement that can relate to your life or the different thoughts and feelings and ideas that come to mind. And then would like to give two thoughts regarding life purpose. And one thought was those who believe that life purpose is something that we are born with, that it is planned in our souls before we are born, and we must embody or achieve it. It's our embedded destiny, and we have no choice in the matter. And then I read the second statement. Those who believe that fate and destiny don't exist, and we have the power, free will, to choose our life's purpose and do what we choose with our lives. Which group do you belong to? Destiny or choice? My goodness, they're very powerful statements. Could we be experiencing both destiny and choice? Perhaps each of us have an embedded destiny or gifts that add value to the world. And we are born with free will, with all the choices in the world to make on how we think and act and use those gifts and add value to the world. With there being three ways to kind of look at purpose, it's kind of very simple of knowing those that don't have a worry in the world and they kind of just do what they're drawn to. And then looking at those that know exactly what it is that their purpose is, and they just keep going. They've known since grade school, yes, this is what I'm doing. You go to your 20-year reunion, and that's what they're doing. Or three, that you believe that we have purpose, but have no clue or how to find out. Well, we could definitely be one of all three of these or a mixture of all three of these. And to kind of figure out what it is that goes into what it is that we feel drawn to, and how to exactly know what it is that we feel positively drawn to, and having a clue, I invite you to take some time and look at the questions that are on the right side of the page. And with your pen and paper, again, do some reflecting. Maybe do some brainstorming of really taking it to the next level of a possible vision board, which will be an activity that I will be posting. In addition, I asked if there were places, spaces, or activities that could help one find their purpose. And again, great interaction yesterday. We heard everything from nature, time alone, being with loved ones, volunteering. Take some time and really think about those places and those spaces and those activities that go with the previous questions that we have answered going through this PowerPoint. For additional ideas of places, spaces, and activities, 10 creative exercises for finding your purpose and your passion for life can definitely be added. We could definitely add to this list, but we kept it at 10. And I had asked, which ones are you doing and which ones are you not? And the ones that you're not, could they be a challenge this week to try? And our final activity as we closed out yesterday, living a whole life purposefully. I had everyone draw a large circle on their piece of paper and explain to them that that's your whole life. And we're going to fill that in. We're going to fill it in with smaller shapes of circles, ovals, squares, triangles, rectangles, octagons, all the shapes of various sizes. But keeping in mind that those shapes that we draw larger, they're going to hold more importance. And those shapes that we draw smaller are going to hold less importance. And then I provided a list to them. And of course, they could add more to this list. They could use less of this list, whatever fits your life. So maybe somebody's circle would have a very good size shape of work and career because we spend 40 hours a week at work. Or families all the time as well, friendships, neighborhood, community, leisure time, rest and sleep. We sleep a third of our lives. Definitely should be a decent size of shape, I would imagine. I know mine is. Professional skill building, creative expression, which is very important. So take a moment, revisit this activity. This activity was a fun one. I've done it a couple times just for myself, just to kind of like really get it down and help make this list for you guys on this, what kind of roles would be in each other's lives. And feel free to share and to post. I'm looking forward to seeing everybody's artwork of circles, ovals, squares, triangles. And that would conclude what it is that we covered in yesterday's meetup. Again, living purposefully and the power of purpose. And I really sincerely hope that you guys took something away from it, and feel free to give any kind of feedback. Thanks and happy Monday.